Peace, peace, and welcome. We're glad you're here. This is the Cook on Monday Morning podcast. I am here with the culinary genius.
Something like that.
The master of the kitchen. The greatest chef in the history of the United States of America.
That's a good description.
Welcome, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for having
Rashad.
me. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad to have you.
For sure.
Rashad Armstead is a chef, and we're going to get into his story. We're going to talk about, what he's doing now, his journey along the way, the experience he had on a competitive TV show called Chopped. I'm glad to have you, man.
For sure. Happy to be here.
At Cook on Monday Morning, we believe that if you own Monday morning, you can own the week. If you own the week, you can own the year. And if you change your year, you can change your life. So how'd you get started as a chef? Like what drew you into cooking?
Man, so my whole entire family, that's what we're known for is cooking. Mm-hmm. So my great grandmother, her name was Sarah Rawls. She opened up her very first restaurant in West Oakland. She was I'm not going to say a classically trained chef. She was a Southern chef that really just knew Southern food on a whole nother level. So she opened up her first restaurant in West Oakland, had a hot plate where she was serving egg sandwiches. And then she grew that one restaurant into about 8 other ones throughout the Bay Area. So that was one of my biggest inspirations because I had such a deeper legacy in this industry because of her. And I didn't really discover that till recently, just how much she did and how just powerful she was. So that was one of my main inspirations. And then just cooking for my family, us cooking together, us being able to share food with each other. That was like one of the biggest reasons that drew me into the industry. Then when I got in there, I started off as a dishwasher. And being a dishwasher, I knew it was where I wanted to be going into being a chef, and I just worked my way from there all the way up. And that's when I was 15 years old, I started. So I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah. So actually one of the themes that we talk about on Cook on Monday Morning is legacy, and it sounds like your great grandmother was that for you. My great grandfather was that for me in a different way, but 8 restaurants.
Yeah, she was a gangster. She did that. She had cookbooks. She was producing her own TV show. She put out a blues album. She was Essence Woman of the Year one year. She was big time. She was big time. And it was for me, I'm one of those people that I believe that my ancestors opened up the door for me to do so much. So it's my responsibility to take what they did and kind of run with it. Right. And so she was about to get her show syndicated nationally. And there was an organization, I don't know if I can say the name just because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but it was one of the biggest organizations for people of color in the world. They did not like the image that she was portraying of Black women in Hollywood at the time. So they got her show boycotted and taken off the air right before it was going to get nationally syndicated. And her character was that Southern grandma, like a Paula Deen kind of character. And she was blowing up, like she was doing commercials with Muhammad Ali, Sammy Davis Jr. She was at all their parties. And I think what it was she came from the Bay Area out of nowhere into LA and just blew up. And everybody knows sometimes there's always these unseen rules that we don't talk about in different cities and different communities. And she wasn't one of those people that would confine to your rules. She wasn't having it. She was her own person. Right. And I think because of that, and my great uncle even told me, he said, she refused to play their rules. She refused to play the game. She refused to follow, having them come in and try to control her image or what she was doing. And because of that, they ended up getting her show kicked off the air.
Wow.
And I had to really go because, in the Black family, sometimes we don't talk about the painful things. So I had to go do a lot of research, and I found articles to back it up. And I was just surprised that it was a Black organization that got a Black woman kicked off the air because she wasn't looking how they wanted her to look. And she was the Oprah of back in the day. Like she had her own production company, album, cookbooks, TV shows, restaurants, and doing big things, but they didn't want to see her on TV. So now I'm like, I have the burden of kind of proving to them it didn't work.
Yeah, you gonna get them want to come back.
Oh, we gonna get them want to come back.
So what was her name?
Her name was Sarah Rawls.
Sarah Rawls.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that was your great grandmother. So was that your mother or father's?
That's my mother's mother.
Your mother's mother.
Yeah.
And so, and you grew up in Oakland.
So I grew up from San Jose, Palo Alto,
The Bay Area.
Modesto, Oakland, everywhere. Lived in LA for about almost a year. So yeah, I've lived all over California.
Okay. Talk a little bit about your upbringing, like your siblings, your parents' situation, sort of like the major lessons. It sounds like your great grandmother was a major influence around your career, but talk a little bit more about what your home life was like. Okay,
well, I grew up, my mom and my dad have been together for 34 years, almost 35 years.
Okay.
Long time. Mm-hmm. Long time. Yeah. And altogether, I have 4 sisters, 2 brothers. Mm-hmm. No, I have 5 sisters, 2 brothers.
Okay. Where are you in the?
I am right in the middle.
Okay.
But more so like the oldest.
Okay. Okay. The middle child with the responsibility.
Yeah. Because them other ones above me and below, it's just like, man, what's wrong with y'all? But that's a whole nother podcast. Okay. But yeah, I grew up, my family, we were never like rich. My mom and my dad were 2 very hardworking people that took care of us like nobody's business. They always made sure that we were good. I grew up in a family where I was one of the lucky ones to have a father that was not a macho man. He didn't really tell me, go do this and go do that. He kind of let me kind of find my way as I was growing up. And it was a good thing because I didn't have to deal with the burden of trying to prove to the world how much of a man I was, because my dad was constantly validating me as a man. So it was definitely a blessing having my father there along the way of my journey, and still having him here now when I'm still, going through my journey. And just him and my mom, having grown up seeing that, being in an environment of 2 Black people loving each other. I mean, when everyone else around me was divorce, singles, baby mama, baby daddy drama, and all that kind of stuff, and then coming home and having somewhat of a normal life where your parents go to work, you know what I mean? And then when the family would come in and visit, those were the crazy ones, you know what I mean? Like, but our family life, it was, my parents did the best they could with what they had. And that was a blessing, because I think that it taught me a lot about who I am now, and it kind of gave me a lot of structure to where I'm not out here kind of looking for the validation of others, because I was always validated at home through my parents. Even when I would say and do some of the craziest stuff, they still were there, loving unconditionally. And it's definitely been a big benefit for me now as I'm getting older and moving in business, meeting different people. It kind of gives me the backbone to be able to say what I feel, especially when I call my parents and say, well, I'm going to say this. And they're like, yep, that's true. Say it. There you go. They're not making me second guess myself. They're like, we know who you are. We know your heart. We've always known who you are. Say it. Nobody don't like it. Oh, well. Yeah. No, I was really engaged in our first conversation, because immediately I knew that you were more than a chef. Like you are a chef, but you have a voice. And you're looking to build a platform to do something greater than what happens in the kitchen. Yeah. And I think that chefs can occupy that unique space in society. Like you see them sort of like go beyond what they do in the kitchen and become sort of like leaderships on lifestyle, leaderships on ownership. But before, and I want to get into that about your story, and I want to let you rip on that, because I know you have a ton of ideas and a ton of things that you're doing. For sure. Talk a little bit though about Chopped. Man, that was a crazy experience. What is Chopped? Like, how does it, for people that don't know? And So Chopped is a Food Network competition. I think they're on their 50th season now, and they've been around for 9 years, I think. So they tape constantly, like they're always taping. And so I used to audition a lot for food competitions back in 2010, 2011. It had gotten to a point to where I just wasn't making it. And I was just like, you know what? I'm tired of driving back and forth to LA, tired of doing all that. So let me just stop. And I literally prayed. I said, God, I'm going to stop doing this. But if you want me to be on any of these shows, they're going to come and find me. And that was it. I never went on any more competitions after that. Literally, what was this? February 2017. Yeah, Chopped emailed me. Wait, no, was that 2017, 2018? 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, because it happened fast. February 2018, Chop emailed me and was like, hey, do you want to audition for the show? I didn't return the email for like 2 or 3 days because that prayer came back in my mind. I was like, oh, Lord, what's happening? What is happening? Yeah. So I finally returned their email. February, we do the application process. March, we do our pod, the Skype interview. April, they were out taping the biopack, which is the thing that they show you in the front and before the show. And then by May, I was out there shooting the episode. So it happened like bam, like back to back. And when I went on the show, it was crazy. I was in the beginning stages of my divorce while I was on the show. Went there and I was just like because I was so, in that moment, my depression and anxiety had really kicked in. I wasn't getting the help I needed. So I was in a really crazy mental place. My business was kind of like, businesses, it was just on a wave, didn't know where it was going. And I literally just walked in that kitchen. I was just like, you know what? God wouldn't have brought me here for no reason. So let me just figure out what I'm going to do here. And I was, every round, I'm just like praying. I'm like, all right, God, I don't know what to do. You got to give me the wisdom that I need. And literally every round, I just did that. Yeah. I wasn't worried about what everybody else was doing. I was just like, I just want to get through the next round. Yeah. Because it's a very stressful environment.
Yeah. Explain a little bit about the structure too. We'll put like the links of your episodes in the description so that you can check them out. But like how many people are competing? What does the time look like? What do rounds mean? Like
so when you get there,
everybody sees Chop all the time. And this is like redundant for them. But.
But one of the biggest questions I get asked is it real? That people really want to know because it doesn't. They think that it's TV land, but it's really real. Like literally, we got there at 6 a.m.
Okay.
Got to the studio, had to sign papers, start doing interviews. Competition starts. You literally get the time limits that you guys see on TV. We get those time limits. But the messed up part is that in between those the rounds, we have to go and do interviews. We have to give descriptions of our dishes. We have to talk about it. Now we're already under enough pressure. We're scared because the judges are now eating our food, and so we're like stressed about that. We're stressed about because we don't know the names of our dishes, and we're just like, what's going on? But we have to get interviewed through every round. And so during that time, like the commercial breaks, we're getting interviewed during that time. We have to come back. Then they kick somebody off, and it's tough. It starts off with 4 people, and then each round you go to appetizer, you go to entree, then you go to dessert. Okay. And each round they just throw you some crazy ingredients inside the basket that it's meant to throw you off, where you really have to be creative. Like in that kitchen, I don't care if you are a Michelin star chef, that's all bought down to everybody's entry level. We're all prep cooks walking in that kitchen at that moment. And so when you go in the round and you literally have the time, that 30 minute, that 25 minutes that they give you, that's how much you have. Wow. And even open up the box, you literally 1 second to think about what you're gonna do.
What was in your box?
So my first round, we had snail vinaigrette was one of the outrageous ones.
Snail vinaigrette.
No, sorry, snail vinegar.
Oh.
I made a snail vinaigrette out of it. So it's basically fermented snails, like the shells that they turn into vinegar. It's not too bad, actually. I was surprised on how it tasted. You cooked it? No, never seen it in my life. Okay. I was like, what is this? I was like, what's going on? And then my next round, we had the soft shell crab. We had the green bananas. And that's where I made the banana ketchup, which I don't know where that idea even came from. But it's one of those things where if you understand food,
banana ketchup.
if you understand the sweetness of and the flavor profiles of an ingredient, you should be able to make something out of it. That's when I made the banana ketchup. And then the next round, We had basmati rice, an Irish birthday cake, Swedish birthday cake, and the lavender mints and green strawberries.
Oh, mints.
Yeah.
Okay.
But see, these lavender mints are the ones that people use that are trying to stop smoking.
Oh.
So they're
awful.
Oh my God. Oh. I just use that just to brush it a little bit on top of my thing. Because in that round, I made a deep fried rice pudding with a green strawberry raspberry sauce on top of it.
Damn.
Yeah.
So I can just like give you like whatever, and you can make something.
Yeah, I've been doing that forever.
Okay.
I always tell people like that's my life is chopped. Like I just life has been just throwing me stuff, and I just been making stuff happen out of it. Like that's been my whole entire experience. So me going to that competition, it was such a normal kind of thing for me because that's I've been in that, especially owning my business. This entrepreneurial world been throwing me secret ingredients all the time, and I had to just, what is this? What am I supposed to do with this? And I got to figure it out and come up with something.
Right.
And so I was definitely prepped mentally for that competition.
Yeah, that's so interesting, man. I never cook.
Hey, really?
My last name is Cook. Yo, let me tell you.
Are you scared to cook?
So like I was at a party, right? And my homegirl, she was one of the guests on the show. Her name was Tyra, and she was like, "Oh, Stevan has a." She missaid the name of the podcast. She's like, Stevan has a podcast. It's called Cook in the Morning, right? And then this other guy next to me was like, "Oh, you have a cooking podcast?" He was like super psyched. He was like, "Oh, I love cooking shows. You have a cooking podcast?"
You were like, no.
I was like, nah. He's like, oh, I'll still subscribe. Subscribe to Cook on Monday morning.
He was all like, shoot. That's
he was
super
so
funny.
let down. The cooking television space is like skyrocketed. The competition space, the reality space is skyrocketed.
It is.
And people love to eat.
They do.
And so you were a chef on this popular TV show. You see in my apartment, I don't have a television. I don't have
That's
cable.
That's smart. Save a lot of money.
Talk a little bit about so ultimately, like, how did that finish?
The show, I ended up winning it. Yeah, I ended up winning it. Yeah.
And then what happens? So how did it feel when you won?
It was probably one of the most overwhelming feelings in the world because it was one of those things where at that moment, everything that I had been through before that all made sense. It was like, oh, that's why I had to go through all that. Gotcha. And so it was like, I couldn't even fully digest it. Like, I still haven't even fully digested it. I had a friend finally a few months back kind of looked me in the eye and was like, wait, bro, listen, you're Chef Rashad. You just won this competition. And even my therapist is like, you got to learn how to be in that. And be okay with it. It's not a bad thing that you're excited about your accomplishments. Because I come from an environment where you're just not supposed to be that way because people look at you a certain kind of way. So you got to just like, yeah, I won it, all that kind of stuff. But it's like, no, you have to really just stand on your accomplishments and be proud of it. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so now I'm just now getting into that mode because before it was like, when I got done taping, I couldn't tell anybody that I won. So I kept that secret for a whole year and 2 months.
For real?
Yes.
Did you tell people you recorded it?
I told only people that knew I recorded it was my immediate family. Really, really close family. I didn't even tell them the outcome of it.
Wow.
And then I couldn't tell anybody else in the community until the Food Network gave me the okay to be able to say it.
A year and how long?
A year and, what was that, 2 months, 3 months?
So you recorded it in May of 2018? May of
2000, yep. And then it aired in...
like July
2019.
That's crazy. You had to sit on that for a year.
Stressed out like...
Dang. So like you're on this... Man. Yeah. Were you a big fan of the show before you went on?
I was, actually. I didn't watch it in recent years because I got so busy working, didn't have time, but I definitely was a fan of the show. Always watched it just because I enjoy competitions like that brings everybody down to even playing field and you got to just figure it out. So I was definitely... That
sounds disrespectful.
I didn't study it.
To make you wait that long.
But I was just like, I can't tell nobody. Like, they were like, no. So I'm really good at NDAs. Like, if I sign it...
Okay.
my mouth is shut.
Got it.
Until you give me the okay. I don't
so
play.
You can trust Chef Rashad.
Yeah. I don't play because, man, I've signed so many NDAs in the last year. I'm like, I can't say.
Oh, so you want more stuff? You want to reveal anything?
I can't reveal nothing. Like I got some big stuff happening coming.
Cook on Monday morning.
I got some crazy stuff happening. I can't even say anything, and you know, like people when they ask me a question, so what's going on? I'm like, nothing. Nothing. Nothing's going on. I'm just living. What in my brain is saying so, but in my brain is saying so much stuff. Like I'm doing this. I'm about to do it, and then I'm just like, nope, can't say anything. Can't say nothing. So I'm definitely an NDA king.
Okay, good, man. That's good to know. So incredible elation after you win. You have to sit on it yourself. Like what does the next year and 2 months look like? And then I want to talk about what happens after you win and it's public. But like, what does the next year and 2 months look like?
So after I come back from New York, literally my life is a living hell to say the least. I'm going through with my business partners. They don't want to give up no more money to finish this restaurant build out. My personal life is going crazy. Me and my ex-wife is like calling it quits, going through the motion of that and just the motion of crazy relationships and just going through it. And then, so that whole year that I had to wait, I was like, man, depression, anxiety, all that stuff hit. And it hit in a way to where it crippled me. It had me kind of like where I was stuck, where I couldn't move. And I'm the kind of person, that's not my personality. I'm someone that if something goes wrong, I'm always a fixer. I can step in and fix it. I always have a solution. But at this moment, I couldn't do anything. I was just literally stuck. And it was the strangest and scariest place for me to be in that place. But what made me get up and finally say, you know what, you gotta make something happen was that I just knew that everything that I was going through wasn't specifically for me. I was just like the person driving the car. It was not really about me. It was the people that were gonna come behind me and come through me from the opportunities that I'm gonna create. And so when I finally just decided enough is enough, I had to just totally throw myself out there. I left my wife, finally gave her the divorce, signed the paper and said, okay, it's time to go. I shut down the restaurant stopped continuing with the build out because I couldn't find funding, and finding the funding part was stressing me out. I just said, okay, I'm just gonna go back and just figure it out. So then I had an opportunity to open up, this guy was selling a restaurant over in, it was Grammy's over in North and West Oakland. Okay. It was a fish and chip spot that had been owned by Black people years ago, but it had been in the hands of a Chinese and Japanese family for 30 or 40 years. And it had been circulated through their community. And this was a community staple that most neighbors that live around there were all Black people. And so when the guy gave me the opportunity to come in there and open up, he didn't, I gave him a little bit of money down, and I told him, I said, I'll pay you later on once, everything picks up. So I opened up that restaurant, and what was that, in June 2019. Remind you, at this time I was homeless. So I was living in the back of the restaurant, sleeping in the office.
How long were you, so you moved in June?
Yeah.
Where were you living before that?
I had just moved out in May.
Okay.
With my out of my loft in East Oakland. Okay. So I went from having my own space and all that to now I'm living in here. But it was I knew that I had to sacrifice everything because I knew that something was gonna come out of this powerful. So through all of my anxiety, depression, all that, I just kept moving forward. So I was sleeping in the back of the restaurant. I opened up the restaurant and just said, we're about to start making money and start going. I created the concept, Grammy's Down Home Chicken and Seafood, that was paying homage to my grandmother, but also kind of bringing back that chicken and seafood kind of spot that you find all down south that we don't really have too much here in Oakland. Right. But it's an area and a market that is very profitable, because we are the main ones giving our money to that, but we don't own these spots that we go to. So I wanted to change that narrative a little bit. So I printed this crazy sign and just said, it's Black owned for the first time in 30 years. And I mean, people were loving it. I didn't have any money to do anything. I was literally pulling pennies out of my pocket funding that restaurant, and didn't have any opportunity to paint. It took me 3 days to clean the restaurant because of how dirty it was. Yeah.
Okay.
That's most restaurants that are in the hood that feed us. They're disgusting and making us sick, but that's a whole nother episode that we'll talk about later on. So I went in there, I opened up the restaurant, I pulled in all my siblings and was like, listen, we got to make this happen. And so I'm just in there working. Again, not really focusing on taking care of my mental. That I'm just like throwing that on the back burner. Like when I have breakdowns, I just got to go and break down, come back and keep on going. And so the show airs in July. Everything just blows up. People are coming from all over the place, calling from all over the place. I'm getting emails and messages and everybody's flowing there. All these newspaper articles are going on, not knowing that my anxiety and my depression is at a dangerous level. But again, us as Black men, we just show up. So I'm still smiling, still doing the business, but I'm breaking inside. So I go on and that restaurant is going, flowing. Then I get the opportunity to open up another pop-up restaurant in Richmond.
Okay.
Again, crazy boy Rashad. I always want to take the risks to do everything. I open up another one.
After July, did you open up the
September?
Wow. Whoa. Okay.
Yes. Open up Crave Barbecue, a barbecue restaurant in Richmond at Hilltop Mall.
Okay.
Again, because it was a space that Black people didn't exist, and that area is going through a big development right now, and they're creating that mall to be an Asian themed mall, where they are targeting towards the Asian community.
Okay.
So me in my mind, I'm like, God, I'm all about representation, being represented in all these markets. Sometimes you can't change it, but you have to be a part of the conversation to be in the room. So I'm like, okay, let me get in there so that I can start being a part of this conversation. So hopefully I can bring more people in there. So the mall gave me this restaurant space. I'm not knowing that they're using me as a face to market to the Black community, to show that they are for the community. And so I'm in there again, going from Richmond to Oakland every day. Driving, and everybody who knows that 80 freeway knows that's the worst freeway in the Bay Area. I'm driving there, making sure both these restaurants are running right, while working with my siblings that don't really have a work ethic because they're young and still are children, you know what I mean? So they still have a lot of growing up, and this is the restaurant business. They have no idea about it. Me, I know how it's fast, you gotta go. So they're doing the best they can, and I'm just going like this, just traveling back and forth. Still homeless, doing all this.
Living out of
the restaurant. I mean, just literally going on fumes. Wow. And so I'm doing that, and then finally, what was this, back in October, I couldn't find the funding that I needed to open up this restaurant. And I mean, to fund the Grammys restaurant. And then the developer over in Richmond, they were kind of playing some kind of weird game. So I decided to, you know what, I'm gonna close both of them. I'm gonna close both of them because my mental health is more important than anything. So I shut both of them down and just went back to the drawing board. And it was a lot. It was one of those things. It was a humbling experience because I had to suck up my pride and say, this is the best thing for me to do because I don't want to keep operating on E when I don't have to.
Yeah. How long into the year did you shut down?
Those both shut down, I believe, in November or October.
Okay.
Yeah. So
we're in the first part of 2020. So
yeah.
So this wasn't long ago.
This was a few months ago.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Shut them down.
Yeah. And so all the stories that I hear about the restaurant business and the people that work in restaurants all makes it sound like it's not a very attractive space to
it's a lot.
Break into.
It's a lot.
Like most restaurants fail. A lot of people that work in restaurants are there's a lot of substance abuse for people that work in restaurants.
Yes, that's a big thing.
Yeah, and it's like I had a friend on the podcast. His name is Mark DeVito. He owns a brewery and they own several bars in the city. And I was telling him about the 2-hour guest bartender stint I had to do, and how that completely like blew my mind. How hard it was to make those drinks and stay on top of those orders, and I was like, Jesus God,
It's a lot.
Yeah, and
Oof.
so you go through this pressure cooker reality TV show, win, have to wait for a year and 2 months, start 2 restaurants and close them both within 6 months, and yeah, man, you all in, bro.
All in there. And it was one of those things where I was just like, I had to accept the journey. Because like for me, people kind of get this glamorous impression of entrepreneurial lifestyle, thinking that it's like always, you work for yourself, you do, no. This is a very stressful, very crazy environment that you have to literally be born to do it. If you're not born to do it, don't do it. And you always know the sign of a person's born to do it is because an entrepreneur never talks with a tone of, I am going to do something. They're already like, I'm doing it. If you're not saying that I'm doing it part, then you're not an entrepreneur. If you're talking about, well, I'm about to, no. And one thing about entrepreneurs is that we always move forward. We always, no matter what we have, we move forward because we're supposed to, because we're leaders, we're trailblazers. We're the ones that's pulling our families and our communities behind us. And so being that mindset, I said, okay, let me shut these down, but that does not mean I'm gonna stop. I just had to get strategic on my next plan and really take care of myself. I started going to therapy. I started to just breathe a little bit, to not try to control the way my life was going, and just kind of just say, you know what? Let me just breathe for a minute right now. I'm going through a lot. I'm going through divorce and going through homelessness and trying to get my life back together. It was no joke. It was no joke. And really just trying to have all this faith, but even though my life did not look like that. Like my life was like, every morning I woke up like, you should just give up. But I couldn't. I just couldn't stop going. And the entrepreneurial lifestyle gets you like that. It's like a drug. It gets you, once you're hooked in there, it gets you going. Yeah. Especially for me, because I've had such great opportunities, built such great relationships, that I was able to see that this can be a very lucrative thing once I find that niche and once I get on that road. And it's just now, that's where I am now, is being smart about how I approach.
Yeah. I want to dive in deep into what it's like to close restaurants. And, people are coming, you have people working there, and, you have a lease obligation, I'm sure. And I also want to talk about how you think about sustainability. There's so many conversations we can go into around food too. But let's start there. You're at 2 places. How many you have family members involved? How many people are working at each location?
So we have 3 people at each spot.
Okay. And what are the hours for each restaurant? Are they the same hours?
So they were similar hours. Basically what I did was I was the one cooking, and I was doing all the prep cooking in the nighttime and in the morning. Okay. So by the time they came in at 9:30, 10, I had everything done. All they had to do was just cook. And then the nighttime, same thing. So I would be cooking till 2, 3 in the morning sometimes, then waking up at 6, getting it going. Okay. That was every day where I didn't have any days off. So for that time, when I opened the restaurant up all the way until November, December, I was literally working every single day. All right. And so closing him, it was a lot because, like I said, I had people dependent on me. I had my siblings dependent on me. I had 2 cooks that were dependent on me.
What was the customer base like? Was it growing? Was it low?
It was growing. Okay. It was growing every day. We were getting more and more customers, especially because Richmond doesn't have any good food. And Oakland is missing the soul of food. People don't put their soul into it anymore. And I always say, it's too expensive to live out there. Everybody's stressed out. Right. so it's missing. So our customer base was growing, and we were making money, but all the money was going straight to bills. And that's the thing about the restaurant business and any business is that you have to, going in, you need to have enough capital to hire the right people and to have a strategic plan to execute. If you can do that part, you can make great money off of it. But what happens is that a lot of restaurants, especially restaurants that are owned by Black people, we come in there throwing all of our money in there because that's all we got. And so then we go from basically living paycheck to paycheck, but living from day to day with the income that we make from the restaurant. So we're trying to pay all the bills at the restaurant, buy food. And then the crazy part is that when you deal with food purveyors like Cisco and the big guys, they don't typically give lines of credit to people of color. And people don't know about that, especially black people. People don't know just how on the side of it, people think, oh yeah, you got a restaurant. But there's so many layers to it challenges that we face just being black people in running a food business, that it's crazy having to deal with our own people driving us crazy. And literally almost waiting for us to do something wrong so they have an excuse to talk about us. But then they'll go to the restaurant that they've been in the hood, the Chinese restaurant that's feeding you God knows what. Right. And you know what I mean? You've been going there for 30, 40 years, but I make one mistake. It's like, I'm going to talk about you to everybody. Yeah. So having to deal with all that was a lot, but the customer base was growing every single day. Yeah, we had our days where it was a little bit slower, but most of the time people we were killing it.
You were supporting.
Yeah, we were killing it.
And so closing. So like, did you have, like, what was your lease setup? Did you have a long-term lease? Was it month-to-month?
So I had like small, like month-to-month leases that I strategically created, leases that if anything ever went wrong, I could get out of them. And so that was a good thing that I was smart about doing that just in case something happened.
Right. Okay. And you've since gone into catering.
Yeah.
And so, what does that business look like? How did that get off the ground? Where is it at right now?
Catering is how it started off. So I already had clients in that realm. And so what I did was I started to do some small caterings because, like I said, I'm kind of trying to figure out my next move. So I did a few of my clients that I've been doing and a few opportunities, because the catering world is another one where, the margins are high, especially when I have to rent kitchens and all that kind of stuff. Like you really don't make any money. So that's when I came up with the idea for the food truck tour. Okay. To get a food truck while I kind of figure out what I want to do with the restaurants, to get a food truck to go on a city tour around California, but also take it national. To really, get the message that I'm trying to get out to people, but also just go out there and really, cooking for people is therapy for me. That being able to see face to face, people enjoy my food, it's important for me. So being able to do that. You said you had a kitchen? What you got in the refrigerator? Look.
I got some pickles.
I can get creative now.
I got some pickles from Trader Joe's. We got peanut butter.
Okay, pickles and peanut butter. We can make something happen.
Some chips. I'm sorry.
Okay, with some chips. Okay, maybe deep fry a peanut butter. You know what I mean? Make a spicy peanut sauce with the. You can dip the pickle in there. Yeah, man, we can. Hey, look at easy. See, easy. I told you I could do it off the top of my head.
That's impressive. All right.
But having to do the catering and the food truck tour, now we're still working on trying to obtain the food truck. But just being able I'm trying to get back into that mode of fall in love with food again and really just being smart on all the decisions that I make moving forward. And just really being strategic.
Yeah. And I think it's great that you won the competition. I think that notoriety is great branding for whatever else you do. I mean, I'm sure you're thinking about it that way also. What is it like to secure a food truck? Like, because I've heard people talk about that a lot. Yeah. Like, what have you learned about doing that so far?
It's one of those things where it's a different realm because they can get pretty expensive. But I'm gonna buy one that's already built out. So they're trying to go buy one brand new. That just doesn't make any sense. So I've been looking. I got a friend that's selling one to me. That's like he's selling to me for half of the price of what it's worth. Okay. And just trying to figure out how to do that is like I have the plan, the vision, but I'm trying to just lock down that funding that I need. I don't want to keep operating my business off of just pennies and me trying to figure it out. I know that now I need to lock in and secure funding to just move forward in everything that I got going on.
Yeah. With someone too of your experience, I'm sure you can like find a job in the kitchen.
I've had people. I mean, the calls and emails I've got about jobs and the amount of money they want to pay.
Yeah, but it's not, but you're
But I can't do that because I know I won't be happy there. I know I won't be happy no matter how much they're trying to pay me. I know I won't be happy. And they're trying to tip me in a major way. They're like, well, we'll do this. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
And then when I hit them with one of those conversations, like, well, you can hire me as a consultant. That's when they're like, oh no. I'm like, oh, see, because I can't be underneath someone's control like that. I'm just not in that place now to where I've gotten a taste of this lifestyle. I know what I can do in it, and I'm gonna stick in there until something happens from it.
Okay.
No matter how hard it gets, and it's been hard, I'm gonna stick through it and just fight through it until something comes up.
Yeah, you're committed.
Yeah, completely. I have no other choice.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And you talked about lines of credits and some of the other aspects of is it called a restaurateur? Is that okay? Because I've been throwing out words and I'll be saying
restaurateur.
And so, we talked about a development that you were supporting that was going to bring out commercial space that brought in Black business owners. You obviously believe in ownership.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about what else you see yourself trying to achieve as a result of building out restaurants. Like what are you trying to ignite?
Okay. So what I did was after I closed the restaurants, I kind of came up with this year plan and 3-year plan. And it was a goal because I believe in setting, I now know how important it is to set goals for yourself and actually meet those goals. So the first year plan was I wanted to find a developer that was building a new development because I know they're all coming into Oakland. So I said, there has to be a conversation piece that has to be to where this developer understands how they can support the community. And not just in a way where we're saying, oh, we're going to give you the space, but we're going to actually help you financially get into there. And so I started talking to different real estate agents and found out about tenant improvement allowance that all these new developers have that people don't even know about. So I started talking and starting to find out how much those dollar amounts were. So I put the word out.
What is that?
Tenant improvement allowance is basically the developer, if you have a raw shell, and the developer is saying, okay, you can come in and open up a restaurant. The developer puts aside, and they already have funded a certain dollar amount where they'll put towards your project, where they'll build things like do the plumbing, the electrical work, do even some of the earthquake and wall. Do whatever it is to make their building to where if you leave it, they're going to be able to rent it out to somebody. And that's the kind of conversation you have to have. You have to know how to talk to them and say, what's the point of me putting $1 million into your building that even if I leave, you're going to still benefit off of? That doesn't make any sense. So trying to get creative about those conversations. And so I started to talk to some of these developers that were open to talk about that. Some of these bigger developers in Oakland. So I found one space that was downtown that I wanted to open up a boutique style food hall where I would put 2 or 3 of my concepts underneath one roof. And it would basically be this great food hall where not only would it just be a food hall with these different restaurant spaces, but also be a venue, have a bar there. I'm partnering with one of my good friends. He owns a barbershop. So we're going to have a barbershop and it's going to be like this real futuristic 80s themed project. Okay. It's set to open up in about 12 to 15 months. Okay. And then and that's about a 6,000 square feet space that we're doing there. And then the 3-year plan was this new development with Oh Wow. And it was a 10,000 square foot town square space, 6,500 square feet of commercial kitchen and commissary space. And so this one I wanted to, because the opportunity came up and they were like, we need somebody to come in there and kind of control it. I didn't want anyone to come in there and control that space that did not fully understand Black entrepreneurship, that did not understand Black food, because you have so many people that have certain positions, but they've never lived that life. They don't know what entrepreneurs really need. They don't know what Black people really need. So when they offered me the space, I signed the LOI, and the whole goal was the 10,000 square feet would be a food court, but it would be mini restaurants made out of the shipping containers. We're going to put about 12 of those in there, and we're going to have everything from a bar, I got one of my good friends. She's gonna have a wine bar in there. We're gonna have. I'm bringing chefs in there, black chefs, to create great restaurant concepts. And then the commissary kitchen is gonna be a food incubator program where we're gonna help launch even more black-owned food businesses, as far as to get them into grocery stores, to get them into having products, because that's a big industry. People don't understand. If you go historically and look at most wealthy black communities in the past, they always had really great food industries, grocery stores, corner markets, restaurants, bars. They always had that. And that's something that we're missing a lot. That's like a really great foundation for wealth. And so me controlling that and me being able to delegate how that goes is so important to me, because I know that's one of the reasons why I went through all the hell I went through, is because I'm supposed to help out people that look like me become owners. Right. We can't keep talking about I call Oakland like it's overwhelmed with nonprofits that want to do. They're doing good. Don't get me wrong. They're doing good. But a lot of them are almost keeping black people poor because they're not giving them the opportunity to be self-sufficient. They're giving all these services, especially West Oakland. And it's like it is for a reason. It's because it's so congested with a nonprofit world where they're keeping people poor instead of giving them opportunities. Right. And especially when all these nonprofits have millions of dollars running through their hands where they can allocate that money to really help people, they're not really doing that. They're more so keeping them poor. And so I'm changing that narrative and creating this food hall where I'm like, no, we're going to develop, this is how you create wealth. Just imagine in the restaurant world, bringing in 1.5 million that's like the bottom of the barrel. Just imagine if you can get 12 restaurants to do that, that are black owned. The level of wealth that you're creating in the black community. And it's going like this. It's just fluctuating. Because my understanding is that I'm going to have somebody in there doing vegetables, which will supply the vegetables for all of those food. So it's that really understanding how to create a black economy where our dollar is circulating in our community way more than what it is. Right. And being strategic about that. And so me doing both of these plans, I always have the mind frame that me cooking, I like to cook for smaller events, small caterings, do that kind of more elaborate stuff. But on the other side, I know that I have to use my cooking to create opportunities for other people. That's like one of my main things and why I want to take on this project. And people are like, well, dog, you are still trying to figure out all this stuff for yourself. Why are you taking all this other stuff? I'm like, if the opportunity presents itself, I don't have time to sit there and be timid and kind of, get scared about what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk forward and just have the faith to know that something's going to come. Somebody's going to be all like, I want to be a part of this project that you got going on. Because it's getting bad in Oakland, and people don't realize that it's going to get worse, because what you're doing is that you're stripping people that this is their community that they've grown up in for generations. You're stripping them of all their resources. You're stripping them of having positions in the community of influence to where you're going to have a community that looks a lot like some of these other bigger cities that got hit with gentrification years ago. Right. And from a city level, they don't really know how to bring down their thoughts and really understand entrepreneurial lifestyle, how important it is for them to invest in black entrepreneurs, to have more storefronts and have more opportunities in Oakland. And me doing this project, I'm kind of like putting everybody like, listen, we got to wake up. Like, this is what needs to be done. How can we get this thing funded? It's because it's not about me becoming rich. It's not. That's not what it's about. It's about really creating that wealth in our community, and me seeing these kids that are out here literally every day have nothing to do. And we keep wanting to tell them, go do this and do that. But it's like, we have to be able to show them. They need to have to have examples to be able to look at and say, I can do that too. Because right now they don't have too much of that. And we have to change that narrative in a major way. Because if we don't, it's gonna get ugly here in a minute. Especially Oakland. Oakland is going through this thing right now where a lot of these high school kids are robbing people left and right for computers and clothes. Right. And it's like, come on. But just imagine if they had jobs, if they had people that really understood them to hire them and was not threatened by their presence, like a lot of the people that hire them out there are. or trying to control them and keep them in a box. Just imagine if they had people that look like them saying, I'm going to give you a job with the mindset that I'm going to help you become better. And I'm going to pay you a living wage so that not only am I paying you, but you get to work for a person that looks like you. I think that's a beautiful thing to do.
Yeah, no, the purpose, and you definitely, you have a cause.
Yeah,
your passion is like it's palpable, and I think what you and I can hear and see and feel the purpose behind what you're trying to build. And you know, like we're in Hayes Valley. This neighborhood was historically redlined, and so you know, banks weren't lending to homeowners here, and it was a space where a lot of Black homeowners, you know, can only come, but they had predatory loans. Yeah. Along the Fillmore corridor, we had talked a little about this over the phone. You know, I had this whole vision for how to revitalize that commercial corridor and for ownership to be in the hands of people indigenous to the community.
Yeah.
And so when you look at some of the institutional barriers, you know, the restaurant industry has a lot of barriers, right? It's like, it's hard. You know, brick and mortar traditionally is also just a bit difficult, you know? And I'm sure you see the businesses that are staples in our community, like kind of, they poison our community, like the liquor stores.
In a major way.
McDonald's, you know.
Even the produce markets.
Yeah.
They're even horrible.
Yeah, and they're staples. They remain in business. You know, they're not owned by people in the community, and so you have like a worthy cause, and what you're talking about is really important. And you know, and so I want to see you get there. You know, and you know, I think talking to you, I think it's apparent you're going to get there.
Yeah. I mean, I right now nothing's gonna stop me. Like I'm gonna keep on moving forward and just see what happens. Even if I have to make it happen myself, I'm gonna make it happen because I know how important it is, because I see the suffering of these Black businesses. I see what they're going through. I see some of our restaurants that have been around for generations that are closing, and they're closing without any retirement.
Right.
They're closing, going to get on Social Security. How do you own a restaurant for 30 years and you turn around and have to live off Social Security after that? That doesn't make any sense. And it's only because they were literally just using what they had to move forward. And so we, as the younger generation, we have to change that. We have to flip that to where we're not gonna keep on living this life like we have to just keep our head down all the time and always just go through the motions or let other people control our narrative.
Right.
We have to stand up and say, no. We have to be owners. Ownership is the most important thing. Anybody knows me, anytime, like I'm doing this Amazon event, I'm pulling on so many Black businesses as contractors to do certain elements of it. And me with the understanding, I don't care if it's paying you $800. I'm still putting money in your hands. And anytime I do anything, I'm always doing that because I understand how important that is. How important it is for me to make sure I'm placing that money in the hands of these Black people, because that's the only way we're gonna change what's going on right now. We can keep on blaming everybody and you know, talking about everybody as our roadblocks. No, we literally, this generation of Black folks, we have every resource to change the whole entire world. And we just can't we can't be scared about it anymore. Yeah. We have to really just operate in us and be happy with that and come together and figure out how can we make stuff happen.
Right.
Because I think if we work together collectively, like that's my vision. I want to build a dream team to get both of these visions. Somebody that's good in marketing, somebody that's really good in business, somebody that really just build a team, because I'm not going to do it all. I'm not doing that. I'm just going to be the person that's going to just throw the vision out there. But I want to build a team of people where we can really put this thing together, because this can be beneficial to where it can literally change the entire world, because it's something that's not being done right now in any inner city right now. And so when they come in there and they take our cities over, we can't be mad at them. And it's almost like you mentioned the red line situation. So now most of these red line neighborhoods are now considered opportunity zones. But again, I think it's an insult to call it opportunity zone, because who is benefiting off of the opportunity? Because now you got people coming and buying up all these properties, able to make One of the real estate ways that people do in the opportunity zone, you can go buy a property, hold that property for 8 years. Every bit of profit that you make off of that, you keep that money. It's not taxable. So how many black folks are benefited off of that, are able to go buy those properties? So again, you talk about the red line, you change the opportunity zone, but it's still redlining. It's still doing it because, again, you're coming into a neighborhood that you said that we're not going to invest in nothing into, and now we're coming in and investing in there, and we're getting rid of all of you. And now we're making even more money off of it. Right. I went to this big opportunity zone meeting that they had at this church one time. Had all these black folks getting up talking about, you know, what they wanted to do, and you had all these venture capitalist people up there talking about, you know, what the opportunity zone was and trying to, you know, explain. From that conversation, nothing has happened. And you have black folks that have access to these venture capitalists that understand the opportunity zone. I'm just trying to figure out what are they saying in these rooms to where it's not trickling down in a progressive way to the black community.
Yeah, I do know some people that are opportunity zone investors that that are social impact minded and have also complained or raised concern about how, you know, there's not really much a part of the program that incentivizes investors to align with like longstanding community members, and but that are interested in that. Yeah. They're interested in the tax savings, right? But they're also interested in doing something that helps people stay. Yeah. You know, and some people are just interested in the tax savings. Yeah. And that's kind of like what it, you know, you can sell art, put it in this, and then let all the interest compound or whatever, whoever's developing whatever. And so I think, you know, diving deep on all the aspects of how real estate works, how investment works, where the investment conversation is going, I think is very wise for you to do, because you also are thinking about, you know, what a space looks like, who has title to land, right? How dollars are flowing between these storefronts. And so, you know, my hope is also, and it sounds like you're also open to partnership. Oh yeah, like you're definitely partnering with developers and Amazon and definitely, and you know, and you're trying to do that while uplifting the community. Yeah. So hopefully you can find those investors, because they're not on all the same wavelength. Yeah. I think some are on the same wavelength as you know, but all that is incredibly valid. Yeah, I agree.
It definitely is, and it's one of those things where the conversation has to start. Yeah, that's why I'm talking with people like Samsung, Amazon, Facebook, Stanford University, because these conversations have to start. They have the money there, and they have all the heart to want to do it. They just don't know how, because they've never had the conversation, or they're thinking it from a traditional standpoint. Oh, this is all they need. No, it's deeper than that. We got to really we really got to create like a structure of how to invest in these businesses where they can benefit off of it. Because there's many layers to it. You just can't give a business and say, here goes $100,000, figure it out. No, they need more than that. They need more structure. They need more than just $100,000, because there's no way you can survive off $100,000 opening up a business. There's more to it than just that. Like both these projects are going to probably be up in the high 7 figures projects. And it's like, I just can't say, oh, give me this just to build it. No, I got to figure out my whole 3-year, 5-year, and the investment has to look like that. It has to definitely have all of that in place before I know I might need 20, 30 million just to keep one project going for the next, 5 years. But understanding that and letting the investor understand the benefit of that and why we need those kind of investments.
On every episode, we talk about leadership and legacy. You kind of started the episode talking about legacy. But, I got a girl and I can't cook, right? And so since I got you here, for all us brothers that's sort of deficient in the kitchen.
I got a plan for y'all too. I'm coming up with, I got a vision of how I'm gonna help y'all out.
You should, are you, I'm sure you thought about some sort of like, do you have a chef recipe book? Do you already?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay. And how can people purchase that?
It's not out yet.
Oh, it's not done yet.
I'm working on it.
Okay.
I'm working on it.
Okay.
I'm working on a few things. Like I had this idea of launching it's funny you said the cooking show podcast.
Okay.
That's something that I want to do where I want to bring on people that don't know how to cook.
Oh, okay.
And help them get to that level.
Oh, got it.
Because you know what I mean? Because once you get down to it, it's easy to do. You just got to learn that flow. And once you learn that flow, I tell all my boys, I'm like, cooking for your girl? You're winning.
Yeah,
you're winning.
Yeah. I mean, I got eggs down. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good thing, though. That's a challenge.
I can boil them.
Can you scramble them though?
I can scramble them. You know, the omelet. I struggle with the.
Oh, the omelet. Oh, that's yeah. I can show you some tricks.
Burnt, you know,
because so many people use butter. I tell everybody use olive oil when you make your omelets.
Use olive oil.
Butter burns way too fast. It's almost like you're taking two fats and putting it into a pan. So you gotta. The olive oil, it'll keep it from sticking in the nonsense. You can make the most prettiest omelet in the world with
okay. All right. Pretty omelets, olive oil. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so, what is like so I don't eat pork and red meat. If I was going to make dinner for two. Okay. You know, Top Chef moment. Or sorry, chop moment. Okay. What do I put together? What's the?
Well, I mean, you can always. It depends on how deep the relationship is, because you know, crab is messy, and crab can make you look ugly. So you're eating crab, so maybe not crab, depending on the night. I would always say a nice salmon is always good. Okay. Always marinating salmon. I got this really good recipe where you take really good maple syrup and you marinate the salmon in maple syrup.
Hold on, can you hear him?
I can. It's just.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Got you. But so you marinate the salmon in some maple syrup.
Oh, salmon and maple syrup.
Salmon maple syrup.
I never had that.
On a whole other level.
Keep going.
It creates the crust for you. Throw a little bit of lemon in there, roast it in the oven with some shallots on top. Maybe do a nice garlic potato, like a fingerling potato is always good. You chop it up with some garlic, salt and pepper, seasoning salt. I like doing some grilled asparagus with a little bit of lemon zest on top of it. You make something like that, and then on a dessert tip, exactly. and then on a dessert, the easiest dessert you can do is you can take some strawberries, cut them up, throw them on the pan with some sugar, thicken it with some cornstarch. Throw a little bit of rosé inside there at the end.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't drink either.
But throw a little bit of rosé at the end just because it has a nice little flowery taste to it. And then what you do is you put it in a nice little bowl. You put that on the bottom of it. Then you take some ice cream or some whipped cream. Put that on top, and then you take what's that cookie called? A chessament cookie.
Chessament.
Yeah. Okay. Put it right on top of it with a little bit of mint. If you do that,
dang, bro, you'll make me sound like
I'm telling you. Listen, I tell everybody that's my secret weapon. Okay, that's my secret weapon. Cooking. Women love when you cook for them. They don't. I mean, because you took the effort to do it, right? And you actually took the time to do it. And when you make it, and when it's good, oh man!
All right, so
in there.
So salmon with the rosemary and some. I'm gonna re-listen to it.
Yeah, definitely. But I definitely got some recipes coming because a lot of my boys, a lot of people I know, they struggle in the kitchen. Right. Like one of my boys called me after Valentine's Day. He was all like, "Yeah, I made my girl this." I'm like, "Look at you, growing up." I'm like, "That's what I'm talking about."
Raise up the man.
Exactly.
But elevate ourselves.
Yeah, I'm telling you. And cooking for yourself, cooking for yourself, cooking at home is it's a great experience to do it, and it's so easy to do once you get in that flow. Right. You can do whatever you want to do. And YouTube is really a great asset to always learn from.
Right on.
Definitely.
So leadership and legacy. Do you have any guiding principles when it comes to leadership?
I would have to say my guiding principles would be to know who you are, stand on what you believe in. Always, every move you make, everything you do, understand that you're a leader in the community. Understand that you're not just speaking for yourself. So make sure you have a lot of truth in what you're saying, and commitment. If you're going to be a leader, be a committed leader, and just have a backbone. Don't be someone that is easily moved or easily pulled away from your vision or your goal. Because if you're a leader, you've been given a God-given vision that nobody can take away. So you have to stand on that, and you have to believe it and speak that boldly, even if it makes you uncomfortable and make other people uncomfortable. and not be scared. Like you have to take that chance. You have to. And take care of your mental, your spiritual, and your emotional.
Right.
That is the most, beyond any of those, that's the most important. Taking care of that, making sure that you value that. Taking care of your body, making sure that you take care of yourself first is really, really important, because most leaders, we struggle with that piece, but you got to do that.
Yeah. Okay. And legacy. So we talked about this a little bit already, but my great grandfather is Luther Harris. I named my company after him. It's called the Luther Harris Holding Company. He moved out here from Arkansas with a 6th grade education in 1947 and bought properties for him and all his family. At a time when it was hard for Black people to do much of anything. His legacy is important to me. It informs how I think about my legacy. This is his dictionary.
Wow, that's powerful.
And these are my great grandmother's chairs, his wife's
cool.
chairs.
That's
how
crazy.
do you think about legacy, and how do you think about your legacy?
Man, legacy, the more and more I go through my days and my times, I understand this. I don't, some people say standing on the backs of your ancestors. I stand on the shoulders of mine, because they were, the reason why I am who I am is because of the fact that they stood. They stood for something, and the more and more I do research and find out more and more about my family, I see how many strong women, how many strong men that I come from, people that were leaders, people that changed so many things in the world that I didn't realize it. And so knowing that that legacy is in my DNA, it's my responsibility to make sure that I take what they did and I just go times 10 and create an even more powerful legacy. Because that's a lot to have to stand on. Like, these people were growing up in a time where they were not supposed to do what they were doing, and they did it anyway. And so now, because I'm standing on their shoulders, it's important for me to be even more impactful, for me to be even more intentional, for me to create a legacy that generations after me are going to benefit off of, not just in my family, but in my community, are going to benefit off of. I tell people all the time, I'm a door for people to walk through. And that's the legacy I want to create, the door legacy. I'm opening up doors for others to walk through.
Right on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rashad.
Yeah. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
This
For sure. Great talk.
Yeah. How can people get a hold of you?
So my Instagram is Chef Rashad 2.0. Twitter, Chef Rashad 2.0. Yeah, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. That's where I post about all of the stuff we got going on. We got, I'm doing a panel next week with Congresswoman Barbara Lee in Oakland. That's going to be really great. I'm the young buck on the panel, so I'm going to definitely bring some edge to the conversation. I don't think they're ready for it.
Kind woman.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Man. I've done her events for her for a few years at her house. She's definitely dope. She's a great lady, and just keep an eye out for all these things, these projects that I got coming up. I got some big stuff coming up in this year that's going to be on a national TV scale. That's going to be deep.
Okay.
And it's going to be, it's definitely going to be great. Yeah, it's going to be great. Can't say too much.
But
it's going to be great. It's going to create more opportunities to have greater conversations around a lot of great topics that we need to talk about.
Okay.
And hopefully, I can lock down all this, get everywhere. I'm going to get it done. All these projects I got, they're already done. I'm just going through the motions.
Right on.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate you.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
Thank
for
you.
Sure.
Peace, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Cook on Monday Morning. I learned so much from Chef Rashad. I now know how to make a pleasant meal for my significant other. I hope that you all check out all the stuff that he does on his Instagram and Twitter, that you follow his next food venture, that you find a way to get behind his vision. And I think that when we build out spaces that are run by diverse communities, whether we build out an area of the city that's specifically focused on Latin-owned businesses or Chinese-owned businesses or whatever else the case may be, it contributes to a thriving local economy. And historically, we haven't had that representation in a strong way for the Black community. I think we can do that in San Francisco. We can do that in Oakland, and people like Chef Rashad are going to be a catalyst to bring about that change. Just a good time to be thinking about those things, and it was really invigorating to hear his perspective, hear his journey, hear about his failures, and all the things that he wants to do with this company. Thank you, Chef Rashad. I appreciate you. I'd also like to thank all the people that made this podcast possible. I'd like to thank my videographer and producer, David Topete. Thank you, sir. I'd like to thank Fernando Encico Marquez for the editing that he does of the newsletter. I also like to thank all the people that have been supporting the podcast by sharing it, by subscribing, by supporting our vision to get to 2,020 subscribers by April 30th of 2020. We are, moving into the first quarter of the year. We're building together how we feel about Monday morning. If we own Monday morning, we can own the week. If we own the week, we can own the year. And if we change our year, we can change our lives. This is about improving ourselves so that we can then go out and improve our communities. That starts with how we change our perspective about Monday morning. I want to say a thank you to all the people that make our city the beautiful, incredible place that it is. I'd like to thank our teachers, our school lunch workers, our people that do our janitorial work, our muni drivers, our first responders, our firefighters, our EMT workers, the people that keep our streets safe. Thank you. The people that are out in our community every day looking to build and improve the lives of others, to give people hope. Thank you. All of you make San Francisco the beautiful place that it is, and I'm your biggest fan. This podcast is for you. It's also for people in the cities we've been building community in, places like Oakland, Los Angeles, Houston, Dallas, New Orleans, Philadelphia, Jackson, Miami, Detroit, New York City, Chicago. Anybody, anywhere that believes in improving their community, owning where they live, building where they are, this podcast is for you. I'd like to hear from you. You can reach out to me on Twitter @SteveonCook. You can send me an email, info@stevoncook.com. I got one of my neighbors outside making a little noise. Feel free to reach out, stay in touch, let us know how we're doing, let us know who you want to hear from, and enjoy your Monday morning. Peace, and we out.